Hi, my name is Dr. Trishala and I recently got into ISB Mohali campus. I am a doctor and I had startup experience as well, like entrepreneurial experience, and I was working in my family business as a CMO. I got a 715 on the GMAT and I took help of a strategy for GMAT in order to prepare for my interviews. So specifically S4G was really helpful for me so specifically I worked with Manan and Abhishek, both of them. My first call was with Abhishek, my second call was with Manan, and I found it very helpful. I found the interview prep extremely helpful. I had, very last moment I got the interview invite, and that's why I decided to work with them. And at the very last moment, they were able to accommodate me. While working with Abhishek, he asked a lot of questions which were similar to what was asked in my real interview process, especially being from a startup background. I did say that I had ambitions to have a unicorn. It was asked, like Abhishek had asked me at that point of time, if unicorn is it just about the title or the stats of it, or is it about something actually creating an impact? And at that time it had forced me to think, and I had said that okay, it's about impact, and I had framed an answer accordingly. And that was the exact same cross question that was asked to me in the interview as well. So I would say that the style of questions that they ask, that is very similar to what an actual ISB interview is. So the entire thing about an ISB interview is that they mainly go deep. They go wide also, but it's mainly about deep. For every single thing, they're going to grill, essentially not very, very grilly, but definitely they are going to ask you a lot of cross questions. So it's not just going to be like a superficial interview. And that interview style was, I think, emulated perfectly with both Manan and Abhishek. Wherein every single thing, there was a why that was asked behind every single decision that I took. A lot of metrics were asked, a lot of ways of, separating the real from the fluff. That was something which the ISB interviewers do, and that is something which I could practice very nicely with Manan and Abhishek. My interview with Manan, actually, it was, it was a proper grilling experience, wherein I got the experience of what it is like, to have a lot of cross questions, thrown at you directly. As someone from an entrepreneurial background and not having a lot of interview practice, this was something which was very, very important for me. It was essential for me to get comfortable in that kind of environment. And because I had gotten comfortable in that grilling environment that was, presented by Manan, and a lot of cross questions, especially regarding why I quit my family business, the details of the sales flow of my previous startup, a lot of questions, a lot of cross questions they repeated in the main interview as well. But the major thing is that I got comfortable with the idea of cross-questioning, with the idea of answering, and I got exposed to that environment. And because of that exposure, my ISB interview was a little bit grilly. I think specifically because in entrepreneurship, they don't have a way to check whether you actually done what you said you did or not. There are going to be a lot of cross questions. So I got very comfortable with that because of my experience with Manan. So, so a lot of questions were asked which were about, checking if I'd actually done what I said I had done or not, if I knew my numbers, if I knew my metrics. Those questions were repeated by both Manan and the ISB panel. So yeah, I don't remember the exact questions very clearly, but I do remember that basically talking with Abhishek and Manan and having those interviews really familiarized me with the style of questions that is asked, with the way that the ISB interview is conducted. Also, with the specific questions that both the ISB interviewers and these people ask. Oh, one more thing I can remember, again, I do have big dreams, unicorn and everything. So I was asked Manan asked me that, okay, you say you want to do this big thing. What is the concrete thing you have planned? What is the thing that you would actually do it in? Have you done any work on that? And that, again, I had thought about it at that point of time, and I didn't have an answer ready. And the exact same question was asked to me in my ISB interview that, okay, you say you have this unicorn, what is your idea? What have you worked on it so far? And because I'd already thought of it once in my head, it became easier to synthesize that information. So yeah, I think definitely, I have had a lot of bad experiences with consultants so far, both in, interview and both in essays. And a lot of times, it's just like regurgitated AI advice. But I think I really genuinely feel that S4G is someone who is actually very, very genuine, who actually can help me emulate the condition of ISB, and who actually, basically delivers value, which is something which I could not get on my own if I had done it. So yeah, I mean, I definitely do recommend S4G man to everybody, especially like Manan and Abhishek. I mean, if you can get them both, do get them both. They will both prepare you for very different facets of the interview. And yeah, I think it's really important to, have that kind of stress test and have that kind of exposure before going into your ISB interview. Sorry, before going to your actual ISB interview. So yeah, all the very best.